This podcast is part of the Listen Frederick Podcast Network. To learn more, visit listenfrederick.com.
Hey, everybody. It is Rigs and Jawa from Beers in the Lot. We've got one more beer coming for you this week because we had a special guest. Captain Greg Gelman joined us this week on episode 83, and that was awesome. Total blast to catch up with him and talk to him about what he has been doing overseas and away from our Sunday night league, the old fat ball guys. But so much has been happening in the hockey world over the last 7 to 10 days here that John and I wanted to hop back on, talk about some of those things, give some of our takes on what's going on in the NHL and maybe other places. And this kind of bonus episode might pop up occasionally because there's always time for one more beer, right, John?
Absolutely.
So why don't you start us off?
Yeah. So I think the first thing that we had a great time with our buddy Greg. It's been a while. I know I haven't seen him in years at this point. You were a little fortunate enough just going to the captain ceremony and everything. So that's awesome. But it was nice to see him and, rekindle some of those old degenerate memories, especially some of the stuff we did without, it being recorded, which is even better. We don't need to get into that. So yeah, there was a lot of stuff that went on. So first, really quick, I just want to touch on something very disgusting that I witnessed in Danny and I's one league we play in together. That's an offshoot of OFBG. We were up by 1 goal. Is a really proper beer league hockey match. I just want to say that first and foremost, like everyone was cool. It was good, hard, competitive game. And I can't stress enough, everyone was totally cool. No one was a jerk. No one was running their mouth. It was all very fun and enjoyable, like exactly kind of what you want in a beer league contest. And then with about like 30 seconds left, they pulled their goalie. I was on the bench. I had vomit already in my mouth just seeing it, knowing some of these guys were licking their chops. And one of the guys just skated down the ice, and I was yelling from our bench the entire time, like, have some respect for yourself. Just throw it in the corner. We don't need this. And he put it in the empty net, and then he slid into the corner like a hot dog. Like, just disgusting. It was so gross. I mean, I said it, like, I feel worse for the children that have to endure like these stories. Like, this is horrifying. The empty nets. It's just, I can't. This is so gross. It makes my skin crawl just talking about it right now. I had like some small part in that, just like I wasn't able to be the voice of reason. It was so upsetting, but I digress. Yes. I had to get that off my chest.
Yeah. Yes. I too share the dislike of the ENG. So this is probably not the right pair of Beers in the Lot guys to do a one more beer bonus episode right off the hop, especially when we're talking about empty net goals, because we're going to agree completely. So
yeah, we're in line on this. I actually told Aaron on Sunday when he subbed in OFBG that a passion project of mine, I made the comment when Ovechkin passes Yager, which he just did. So now it kind of looks clean in terms of the order of Gretzky, Howe, Ovechkin. I'm going to redo the top 10 all-time NHL scorers and subtract all the empty nets out. So I didn't want to do it with Ovechkin, kind of tracking Yager. I wanted him to officially pass Yager, and then that way it's a straight shoot down the line 1 through 10. So I'm gonna readjust the current standings as they are of all-time goals with the subtraction of empty nets because they didn't count anyway. The NHL tracks up, but they don't count.
I think Gretzky is up there though. Like,
he has 50 something.
Yeah, he has a lot of empty nets.
I made a comment to Aaron. I was like, yeah, once he gets Gordie Howe, like he's only 40 away, and he's like, no, he has like 90. I was like, no, I took the empty net goals already out on him. Like, and Aaron was just like laughing because he knows I just hate it.
So let's talk about Poppy and his little transgression last weekend.
Yeah. So they had the Heritage Classic. Leafs are going through some goaltending issues. Actually, though, Shalgren went in Tuesday night, got a shutout in his first NHL start. So
yeah, it was awesome.
Kind of funny. Like they were having goaltending woes 48 hours prior to this. But I get Sheldon Keefe's thought process on starting Mrazek. You want a veteran kind of in that moment because it is a lot to take in, especially if it's your first outdoor game and all that jazz. I get it.
Yeah.
Mrazek, I don't think he did bad, but he didn't do good because he let in that weird Henestroza one from like the corner pretty much. And there was another one he probably could have had. But anyway, he did not have a good showing. Buffalo, who all of a sudden looks pretty good, like they're getting some mojo going on. It started kind of when they waxed Vegas the other night, which we'll get to in a few minutes.
Right.
Near the end of the game, Dahlin and Matthews were kind of slashing, cross-checking, pushing and shoving in front of the Buffalo net. And
well, not in front of the net.
Yeah.
Like
in the net.
In the crease behind the goaltender.
Yeah. And Anderson was just there.
Dahlin was like pushing and cross-checking Matthews into the crossbar and like trying to put him like into or over the net is what it looked like. I think
Matthews has like some fear of crossbars now since he smacked into it. Right. You know, when he played Pittsburgh a few weeks ago. Right. But like no one was really in the wrong then. And then near the end, Dahlin gave him a few shots to kind of the wrist and in you know, torso area, which is like you start doing that, that's usually the point where guys throw their gloves off. Especially if you start hitting wrists and whatnot. Matthews
on a skill guy.
Exactly.
On a guy that is up there in goals. I think he's leading in goals, right? In the league.
He is number one.
So you're hitting at a guy's money makers, his hands and his wrists. And then the official is here's my thing. The official is there, right?
Yeah.
Right? There's one down low, there's one up top. There's one down low watching everything that's going on. Watching Dahlin basically keep going after Matthews, and then Matthews decides he's had enough and he goes after Dahlin. He cross-checks him in the head neck area, which, you know, we don't want. I get it. But, you know, he gets suspended for 2 games. And here's my question. At what point is the league going to decide that there is not equality amongst the players, in that there are certain players that need to have more protection than others? And if they see Rasmus Dahlin, who is a very talented player in his own right, going after Matthews that way, like, when does the official decide he's going to put his arm up?
The one thing that kind of irked me about the whole situation, though, is if you're Buffalo, if you're the Leafs, like, anyone on the ice, anyone could have kind of just jumped in.
Right.
Make it a 2-on-1 situation. And that goes for, like I said, Buffalo and the Maple Leafs. And I don't remember where the puck was during this whole sequence. Like, I feel like the play had already left because it was just like the two of them in front. Right. And I'm just still shocked. Like, at no point did anyone else just jump in. So of course, then when Matthews gets him right in the neck, and that's actually the reason he got suspended. The league looks at it as if you hit some guy on the shoulder and it rides up and hits the neck, they're a little more lenient. This one was clearly an intent to go bang, you know, Bass Rutten bar fight style. I'm hitting you in the neck. I'm just still more shocked. Like, no one came in kind of help him out. And if you look at,
do the Leafs really have anyone like that? That's my question. That they don't.
so Michael Bunting is a little rough, but like he also is like first or second in rookie scoring. So like he's not a guy you really want
and
trying to go out and do much.
He doesn't play with Matthews either.
Yeah, he's not even on his line. Wayne Simmons is fourth line.
Right.
And he's in and out of the lineup because he just played his 1000th game, so good on him. But he's also a little older, so they're going to start like saving some of him. And that's been the MO on the Leafs, unfortunately, the last like couple of years. It's been like, oh, they're all sizzle and no bite because they have no one really that's a deterrent.
Right. But okay, so the league has spent the last 20 some years trying to remove the enforcer,
the thugs, if you will,
from the game, which they have effectively done. And now it seems like it's fair game on the Stars. And
open season, man.
And you're seeing Poppy snap. McKinnon went crazy the other night.
Because he got high sticks.
I forget.
And then he just went bonkers.
He manhandled some dude like a bear, like the bear in Revenant against Leo there. and then Landeskog was going off about officials and then ended up in a messed up play where he got hurt. That probably should have been something called. So, there's got to be a way that the league can either step in now or decide that, hey, maybe we need to loosen up on some of the other things that we were doing to prevent the players from kind of evening these things out and policing themselves. I don't think it gets fixed this season. I think we're going to see more issues with this kind of stuff going on, unfortunately. And it means that star players, like your leading goal scorer, might be suspended for a few games. It might mean that star players, like the captain of the Avalanche, are hurt for a little while and have to have some sort of surgery. And that sucks too.
Or he gets cap relief so Joe Sakic can start doing some crafty things at the deadline.
He can go get that defenseman, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Speaking of the Avs, a certain veteran coach doesn't want his team to face the Colorado Avalanche, who are a juggernaut, even with, Lando out. Darryl Sutter basically said, what?
Yeah, in not so many words, I'll just shorten it because it was a interesting question, just based. The reporter, I forget who it was at the moment, just asked about the Pacific Division and the state of it. With teams playing, especially now, you're playing your divisional games where they could be technically 4-point games, yada yada yada.
Yeah.
And he said, everyone's trying to win as many games as they can. No one really wants to fall behind, and especially in the Pacific, you don't want to fall out of the divisional lead because then you'll be the wild card. And if you're the second wild card, you have to play the Avs. And he just said that's a waste of 8 days, implying that it's game 1, game 2, game 3, game 4.
You're out.
You're out, which is comical. And I like Darryl Sutter because he kind of tells it how it is. When he was in LA, people would ask him like, "Oh, how'd you win the game?" He goes, "Well, we won 3-1. We scored more goals than the other team." He's always like great for kind of quips and these one-off answers.
My favorite Darryl Sutter thing was when he was winning in LA. I think it was after the first cup. It was like that in between year, and somebody asked him like, "Oh, your teams are known for defense, you don't allow a lot of goals and all this stuff." He's like, "Yeah, that's because we have the puck the whole time."
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, this old school dude understands like what we say all the time. Like, keep the puck. Then the other team can't score. Great.
Those LA teams, even though they weren't like everyone always said they weren't as fast, but the problem that they gave teams was they were very big, and all those guys could move. No one on the team was so slow that they were a liability. They just didn't have any burners.
Yeah.
And yes, they did have a younger Jeff Carter, and they also had Mike Richards before he got into other things. But yeah, but like, so the team could skate. They had a high offensive output because the second they lost the puck, their whole goal was like, oh, we're going to get back. And if we have to like put two guys on you, we'll put our defensemen in better positions in our defensive zone in the neutral zone. So you're going to cough the puck up. And that's essentially what they did. That's why they smothered half the teams that played over those, 3-4 seasons. It was just, it was too easy for them. But yeah, that's just such a great line. I also kind of think that's like a little bit of gamesmanship on his part, where he's like thinking, he's like, all right, if we can get out of the first round with whoever we would play, we still have to win our next divisional round, but there's a strong chance. And I would think it's kind of common. Like if you're going through the Central, like it's tough because it's Colorado, St. Louis, Nashville, and Minnesota. Those are your 4 teams currently.
Yeah.
And all 4 of those teams are pretty damn good in general.
Yeah.
So like, I think he's kind of thinking if the Avs do get out of that round, out of that division, and we play them, he's almost sowing the seed of like, kind of like, oh, they're so tough, we can't do anything. and it also maybe a wake up, like a reverse psychology thing on his own team. Like, hey guys, we're good, but you're still, I think they're trailing by like 20 some points in the standings.
Right.
Like guys, like, no, I'm sure there's some teams in the Pacific and Central who are like, if we play them, whatever. Like, no one wants to play the Avs. No, I think no one really wants to play the Avs. I mean, at the moment, I think actually, as we record this, it's Wednesday evening. Vegas is now sitting in that second wild card. If Vegas gets healthy, great matchup for him. But Vegas may not get healthy.
Yeah.
That's my fear, especially as somebody who really likes Vegas. The other thing too, like, that we have to talk about, Jack Eichel's such a baby. Oh, does that irk me?
I don't know,
like,
man.
I get it. But like, part of me almost wants to go like, bro, it doesn't matter who you are. Like, you left. You don't think they're going to boo you? Are you mad?
I actually agree with what he said.
I kind of do too.
I don't think he should have said it. But what he said was, I agree with 100%. He was there for a while, and he came in as the franchise player, and he got no support from that franchise, like at all.
Zero.
They didn't do anything to get any kind of supporting players for him.
And if you go back and look at the Rolodex of guys they shipped out during Jack Eichel's tenure, like, there's no excuse, really.
Right.
There was talent there.
Right. And so he's there for the 7 years or whatever it was. And, he gets hurt, and they're not helping him find the best path for him to get back and play the game. And he decided that enough was enough, and he needed to go somewhere else. It was probably 3 years past due, right? And, he goes somewhere else.
The surgery and the neck thing did not help where he's like, I want this. They said no. But I forget who said it. I think there was something, Jack Eichel kind of made mention of it, where he's kind of like, I think it's more ridiculous that we as players in the NHLPA don't have this in the CBA.
Yeah.
Where like essentially the team.
Yeah, but so that's a larger issue, right? They need to go back and as a labor group, they need to decide if this, if the union's doing what it needs to do to help them, and all that stuff. But he got the procedure done, and he's playing.
He looks great. He had 9 shots the other night. He's doing his job.
He's getting back. So he's one of those guys that if Vegas gets some other key players back from injury, he's going to be a contributor right along with those guys.
I looked at it. When was it? Yesterday or the day before? They have like over $30 million on injured reserve.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
so
that's almost
they might
half
be,
of the NHL cap space.
They might be in the market. But then, to kind of finish off the Eichel thing, he says basically like, oh yeah, now the fans are excited about me after I left because they were booing them and all this, and they had crazy signs and stuff, which is entertaining on its own. I like that kind of energy in a building. But the fans didn't care until he left, really. And he was right. I think he's right.
And I'm sure part of that, I mean, and I don't want to lump all this on the Sabres organization too, because like I know quite a few Sabres fans and they're great people. I would like to say that, but like,
oh yeah, they're great fans.
I'm sure a lot of that fan base was just like, I am so sick. Since, I mean, they had those great teams coming out of the lockout with Briere and Drury and JP Dumont, and they had Ryan Miller, and then Sidney Crosby scored in double overtime and ended his hockey career. I mean, seriously, if you go back and look at that Sidney Crosby golden goal, Ryan Miller fell off a freaking cliff after that. Like it ended him. Like I even went back months ago. Somehow I was having this conversation. Like he didn't win a playoff game for like 3 years after that. It was insane. But anyway, but like I kind of wish there would be more of the Sabres faithful to kind of point the booze a little bit back at like the ownership and management
but maybe that's what was really happening. Maybe it was just finally there was some event that they could point all of those years of frustration at, and it just happened to be Eichel's return.
Homecoming.
Right. And while it may on the surface look like it was directed at him, it's really about the entire situation over the last like 10 years. And that, who the hell knows, because I'm not a psychologist or sociologist, but maybe that's what it was. But I do agree with what he said. I do love Sabres fans. I really do. I've going to Caps games here locally. Somehow, whenever tickets came available, I was always going to a game when Buffalo was in town. And the visiting Buffalo fans were always so cool and so awesome to hang out with before and after games, during the game. They were always awesome. So it was kind of out of character to me for them to act that way. But, I do agree with what Jack said.
My last little piece on the Jack saying is like, yeah, he was a baby for saying it. He would have been the bigger man to just like not say it. But like, he's kind of known to like wear his emotions on his sleeve.
Yeah.
So like by him saying it, it kind of does make sense. Me personally, I would be like, dude, you're freaking baby. Like I would just like, even on his team, just to rag him, because I'm that guy. Like walk by, I'm like, hey baby, what's up, baby Jack? Like, I don't know, whatever. I hope Jack Eichel scores like 40 goals between here and the Stanley Cup final and they win. So
that would be awesome.
They need like a few. Well, actually, they need about $30-some million back healthy. But yeah, we'll figure it out.
All right, so that is one more beer number one.
So what's that? 83B, right? 83B.
Yeah, we'll call this will be labeled by like bonus something or other, but we'll definitely call this series one more beer. It will probably be at least 2 or 3 or maybe all of us from Beers in the Lot if we feel like we need to get some extra discussion out to our listeners. So thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you next time for one more beer.